This is the review for the final exam. Number 1 says to use the distance formula, and then it gives you the distance formula to determine the approximate length of the diameter of a circle if its endpoints are 10, 5, and 1, 5. Okay, so we're going to use that formula of d equals the square root. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to subtract the x values. So I'm going to do 1 minus 10 squared plus my y values are 5 minus 5 squared. And honestly, from right here, you could really just type that whole thing in your calculator, but I'm going to show you how to simplify this. So 1 minus 10, that's negative 9. Make sure you keep that in parentheses. Plus 5 minus 5 is 0 squared. So that would be the square root. Negative 9 squared is 81. And then 0 squared is 0. And then the square root of 81 is 9. But just to make sure you don't make any mistakes along the way, just type the whole thing in from the beginning. Number 2, points A, B, and C refer to the diagram to the right. And it's asking what these are. So let's find these. So here's A, B, and C. So first it says are non-coplanar points. Non-coplanar would mean they're not on the same plane, but they are all on the same plane. You can see they're all on this plane right here. B says are contained only in plane P. Okay, so plane P is, you can't see the, oh wait, sorry, this is a P. Are contained only in plane P, that's not true. They're also in the plane that's going up and down. But C says are collinear, and collinear means on the same line. You can see those points are on the same line. So your answer there is C. Number 3, which set of points are not coplanar? So coplanar means on the same plane. We're looking for the ones that are not. So A, B, C, and D. You can see those are all on this plane up at the top. If I go to look at B, A, D, and C. So here's A, D, C. Okay, those look like they're all on the same plane. And then C says A, B, D, and E. So A, B, D, and E. And you can see you have 3 on the plane at the top, and then you have this one down below, kind of far away from it. So that makes that not coplanar. Number 4, determine the midpoint of the segment within 0.76 and negative 3, 4. So the midpoint formula is on your formula chart, and it says you need to add your x values together and divide by 2, and then you need to add your y values together and divide by 2. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So for my x's, I'm going to have 7 plus negative 3 divided by 2. And for my y's, I'm going to have 6 plus 4 divided by 2. Okay, so for x, 7 plus 3 is negative 4 divided by 2. And then for my y's, 6 plus 4 is 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, I could have simplified this already, but negative 4 divided by 2, and that is negative 2. So negative 2, 5. Is going to be, did I say negative? I meant positive. So 4 divided by 2, and so that's going to be positive 2. So 2, 5. Number 5, linear pairs are blank supplementary. So let me draw you an example of a linear pair. A linear pair would be like this angle here and this angle here. Those make a linear pair. Okay, they form a line, and a pair means 2. So it's these 2 angles that form a line. Those are always going to be supplementary. Remember, supplementary means adds up to 180. Number 6, this is asking to solve for x. So this is making sure you know these are vertical angles. So I'm going to do 4x equals 32. Divide by 4. So x is going to be 8. Number 7, find x if ray ST bisects RSU. And it says the measure of angle 1 is 3x minus 4, and the measure of angle 2 is 2x plus 6. Okay, so it's saying that ST is bisecting RSU. So RSU is getting cut in half. So I'm going to take those two angles and set them equal. So I'm going to have 2x plus 6 equals 3x minus 4. Okay, I'm going to subtract 3x. Make sure you show all your work so you don't make any mistakes. Okay, then I'm going to subtract 6. So I have negative x equals negative 10, which means I need to divide by negative 1. So x is going to be 10. Number 8, determine which two integers would be counterexamples to the statement, the sum of two numbers is always greater than the larger number. So a counterexample is an example that's going to prove the statement wrong. Okay, so this says the sum of two numbers is always greater than the larger number. So let's see which one proves that wrong. So 5 plus 7 is 12. And it's saying the sum of those numbers, so 12, is greater than the larger number. So is 12 greater than 7? Yes, it is. Okay, that's not our answer because we're looking for one that proves this statement wrong. B says, so I'm going to do negative 2 plus 5. That gives me 3. Is the sum of those two numbers greater than the larger number? No, it's not. So this should be our counterexample, but let's check the last one. 2 plus 3 equals 5. Is the sum 5 greater than the larger number? Yes, it is. So the answer is B. Number 9, who is the father of geometry? That is Euclid. You will hear a term called Euclidean geometry. That's because the father of geometry, Euclid, that was named after him. 10, complementary angles are blank adjacent. Okay, so adjacent, that means two angles back to back. So if you look here, this angle and this angle would be considered to be adjacent. Okay, so complementary angles are adjacent. So these could be complementary. Okay, remember complementary adds up to 90. Okay, well those could add up to 90. But what if I had two angles like this? Okay, well these are adjacent angles, but they're not going to add up to be 90 degrees. So sometimes would be your answer here. 11, identify the contrapositive of if it is a bicycle, then it has two wheels. So when we did these conditional statements, we went through all these words. Contrapositive was the biggest word. Okay, so the way I remembered it is the biggest word, we do the most things to this sentence. So we switch the sentence around, and we also put not in both pieces of the sentence. So we're going to switch the sentence around and put not. Okay, I like to write these out and then find my answer if it's multiple choice. So I'm going to say, if it does not have two wheels, then it is not a bicycle. So I'm looking for the answer choice that says that. If it does not have two wheels, then it is not a bicycle, and that is C. Number 12, given L is parallel to N, so I'm going to draw that on my picture. I'm just going to draw two little arrows to show those are parallel. And the measure of angle 2 is 97, and it wants me to find 3. So when you have two parallel lines cut by this transversal, angles 2 and angle 3, those are called same side interior, and anything same side are going to be supplementary. So they're going to add up to be 180. So I'm going to do 180 minus 97. Okay, and that gets me 83. Okay, 13, given L is parallel to M, measure of angle 10 is 8x plus 7. The measure of angle 8 is 2x plus 37. Find the value of x. So on these questions, you either need to decide, do these need to add up to 180 or are they equal? Okay, in this case, 10 and 8 those are considered to be corresponding. They're both up there in that top left corner of their section, so they are corresponding. So these are going to be equal. So I have 8x plus 7 equals 2x plus 37. I'm going to subtract 2x. Okay, and then here I'm going to subtract 7. So I have 6x equals 30, and I'm going to divide by 6. So x will be 5. Okay, number 13, or 14, the table shows various values for x and y. Which equation best describes the relationship between x and y? Okay, now these, you could type these in your y equals on your calculator and pull up the table, see which one matches the table, okay? If you don't know how to do these, okay? But for an equation, we need a slope. So what I'm going to do is pick 2 points, and I'm going to get the slope of those. So I'm going to do change in y, so that's 16 minus 15 over 1 minus 2. Okay, this is the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 formula. So 16 minus 15 is 1. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. And 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. The only equation over here that has a negative slope is C. Number 15, line T intersects parallel lines M and N. According to the information provided, which of the following pairs of angles are not always congruent? All right, so here we go. So 3 and 5, okay, those are called alternate interior, and those are congruent. Okay, so it's not that one. We're looking for the one that's not always congruent. 3 and 6, 3 and 6, those are same side. Remember, anything I said that is same side is going to be supplementary. Okay, so that should be my answer, but let's check the last one. 4 and 8, those are both in the bottom left section of their little area, so those are corresponding, which means they're congruent. So our answer here is B. Number 16, identify the slope of the line passing through 0, 1, and 1, negative 2. All right, so I'm going to use the slope formula, which is y2, so that's negative 2 minus y1, which is negative 1, and then I'll have 1 minus 0 on the bottom. So negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3, 1 minus 0 is 1, and negative 3 divided by 1 is negative 3, which is A. Okay, 17, determine the slope of the line parallel. So what you have to know here is that parallel means same slope. Okay, the slope of this line is 3, which means the same slope of my parallel line would be 3, which is B. Number 18, determine the slope of the line perpendicular. Okay, so the slope here is negative 2 over 5. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. The opposite part of that means if it was negative, now it's positive. Okay, so we know our slope is going to be positive. Reciprocal means you flip the fraction. So that's going to be positive 5 over 2, which is B. Number 19, a straight edge and compass were used to create this angle bisector construction below. Arc EF was drawn from point B, and arcs with equal radii were drawn from point E to F. Which statement is true? Don't worry too much about what that question says. Just figure out which statement is true. So this says ABD, so that's this piece, equals DBC. Okay, well if this is an angle bisector, that should be true. Okay, but I want to check these other ones to make sure that I didn't mess something up on that first answer. Okay, number 2, or B says, twice of ABC, so ABC, 2 times that equals ABD. Okay, well, that doesn't make sense. Okay, maybe if that was the other way around, that would make sense. But that one doesn't. Okay, so it's not B. C says the measure of ABC, so that's the whole thing, is equal to CBD. So that's saying the whole thing equals the little part, which isn't true. So our answer here was A. Number 20, determine the perimeter of an equilateral triangle, PQR. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to draw a triangle, PQR, and I'm going to write down what they gave me. So PQ is 2x plus 5, PR is 3x minus 7. They don't give me the third side, but that's okay because I know this is equilateral. Equilateral means all sides are the same. So I'm going to set those two sides equal to each other. Okay, I'm going to subtract 2x and move it over. So x minus 7 equals 5. Add 7 to those sides. And so x is going to be 12. Now it does ask you to find the perimeter, but since this is equilateral, I know that all sides are the same, okay? But I do need to plug that 12 in. So let's say I plug it in right here for this x. 2 times 12 is 24, plus 5 is 27. That means all of my sides are going to be 27. That's not right. Sorry. 29. 24 plus 5 is 29. So all of my sides are 29. And 29 times 3 is 87. Number 21, which equation would you use to calculate the value of x? Okay, so you have to know that the angles in a triangle add up to be 180. So I'm looking for the equation that says that. So you can see B, they're all adding up to 90. So that's not it. C is setting two angles equal, but on A you can see they've added the 2x plus the x plus 30 plus the x plus 10, and they've set it equal to 180. So A is our answer here. 22, determine the value of x. Remember, exterior angles equal the sum of the two remote interiors. So this exterior angle here is going to equal these two on the inside. So I'm going to have 3x minus 8 equals 40 plus 30 is 70. And then I just solve this. So I have 3x equals 78. And if I divide by 3, I get 26. Okay, number 23, the measure of a vertex angle of an isosceles triangle is 100. What is the measure of the base angles? So I'm going to draw an isosceles. That means that two sides are the same. And what they're saying here is that this vertex, the one at the top, is 100. So what you need to remember is that for vertex, or for an isosceles, the angles opposite of these sides that are congruent, these angles are also congruent. Okay, so if those angles all need to add up to be 180, these two need to be 80 between the two of them. And if I divide that by 2, because they're equal, that means each one is 40. 24. Two sides of a triangle have lengths of 12 and 17. Which inequality shows the possible measurements for the length of the third side? So this is, to find the possible lengths of that third side, you need to subtract those two numbers. So 17 minus 12 gets you 5. And you need to add those two numbers. So 12 plus 17 equals 29. This is going to be the range of numbers that this can be between. You just have to know if it's A or B here. So this is saying, well, this is what our correct answer needs to look like. Okay, think about this. If you read this backwards from the x, that would say x is greater than 5. And then if you read it going to the right, x is less than 29. So x needs to be greater than 5, but less than 29. So the answer here is B. All right, number 25. Given that triangle MON is congruent to triangle PQR, with MO is 30, MN is 42, and PR is 2x minus 10, determine the value of x. There's no way to do this unless you have a picture. Okay, so I'm going to say triangle MON and triangle. Make sure you write these in the right order, like M goes with P. So that means the P goes there, Q goes here, R goes here. They're saying MO is 30, MN is 42, and PR right here is 2x minus 10. They want you to find x. So look at what happens here. Since we draw these pictures correctly, we can see that MN is going to be congruent to PR. So I'm going to take those two sides and set them equal. So I'm going to have 2x minus 10 equals 42. Add 10 to both sides. So 2x equals 52. And if I divide by 2, x is going to be 26. Okay, number 26. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Calculate the values of x and y. So just looking at that congruent statement, okay, and this is missing an A up here, but just looking at that congruent statement, you can see that AB is congruent to DE. So I'm going to set those equal. So 3x plus 4 equals 2x plus 12. I'm going to start out by solving that. So minus 2x and subtract 4. So I know x is 8. And then for the y, I'm going to do 3y minus 6 equals 9. So 3y equals 15. Divide by 3. And so y is 5, which is A. Number 27. Triangle EFG is congruent to triangle GHE. Solve for the value of x. Okay, so what I know is that this angle is congruent to this angle. Those are alternate interior angles. And so I have 6x minus 4 equals 4x plus 6. And I'm just going to solve that. So minus 4x. I'm going to add this 4. I'm going to divide by 2. So x will be 5. For 28, determine which side is the triangle's second longest. Okay, so remember here that the longest side is going to be across the biggest angle. So the biggest angle here is 110. So the longest side opposite from that is CB. The next biggest angle is C. And the side opposite from it is AB. So that's going to be the second longest. 29, triangle DEF, triangle STU are shown in the diagram below. Based on the information, what is the measure of angle U in degrees? So what I like to do here is I like to look at this congruent statement and see what U goes with in the other triangle. So here U is the last letter. Here F is the last letter, which means U is going to go with F. So angle U is also going to be 65 degrees. All right, number 30, given an endpoint 9, 6 and negative 7, 8, determine the midpoint. Okay, so we've already kind of done this. So I'm going to add my x's. So 9 plus negative 7 divided by 2. And then I'm going to add my y's and divide by 2. So 9 plus negative 7 is 2. So that's going to be 2 divided by 2. 6 plus 8 is 14 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So 1, 7. Okay, 31. What other information is needed in order to prove the triangles are congruent using the SSS, that's side, 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 congruence postulate? Okay, well, they already show you that these two sides are equal. Okay, and then we know the side in the middle is equal to itself because of reflexive properties. So to be able to prove by side, 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 we would need to prove that AB is congruent to AD. So that's what I'm going to look at for in my answers. So A says AC is perpendicular to BD. No, that's going to talk about an angle. B says AB is parallel to AD. No, that doesn't make sense. C says AB is congruent to AD. So that is our answer. 32, which of the following describes angle QRT? So it's this angle here. And TRS, which is this angle here. Okay, so answer A says complementary. Complementary means adds up to 90. That is not true here. Those are going to add up to 180. B says congruent. Okay, they could be congruent. I just don't know that. So that's not it. Supplementary, yes, because that is a linear pair. So my answer here is C. 33, the bases of a trapezoid have lengths as shown. What is the length of the median? So here, to find the median, I'm going to add the two bases. So B1 plus B2. And I'm going to divide by 2. So this is going to be 6 plus 10 divided by 2. 6 plus 10 is 16. Divided by 2 is 8. So my median there is 8. Put that number in there and see if that makes sense. And it does. Okay, 34, ABCD is a rhombus, solve for x. So what you have to know about a rhombus is that all of these sides are the same. So that means 2x plus 3 is going to equal 4x minus 6. So I'm going to subtract 4x. Okay, I'm going to subtract this 3. So I have negative 2x equals negative, hold on. Oh, that's a negative 5, isn't it? Oh, that's a 5. I thought it was a 6. So it's negative 5 plus negative 3, which is negative 8. Divide by negative 2, and so x comes out to be 4. Erase this. 35. If ABCD is a rhombus, the measure of angle 6 is 38. What is the measure of angle 5? So what you have to know about a rhombus is that every angle is being bisected. Every angle is being cut in half. So if 6 is 38, so is 5. 5 is also going to be 38.